I have no problem with the medical use of cannabis, just as I have no problem with the medical use of opiates. If a drug is needed for a valid medicinal purpose, though, and is being administered safely, there should be no question of its legality. And if a drug that's proven to be safe abroad is needed here, it should be available. I agree that the regulation of medicines is a thicket of complexity, bureaucracy, and corporate and institutional self-interest. My basic contention is that something that's been found to be safe in a reliable jurisdiction shouldn't need to be tested again here.
Marijuana is a gateway drug. The risk of graduating to ice or to heroin from extended marijuana use is real and documented. This action by the Greens risks the health of Australians. It should be rejected and they should withdraw it, and we will oppose it.
Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Why these people who want to do so much good for everyone, who call themselves governments and this and that, why them say you must not use the herb? Because it make you rebel. Against what?
Excuse me while I light my splay. Oh God, I got to take a leave from reality. I just can't dream. As a wild staying with.
Hello, today is the 23rd of November 2018, and you're listening to the Australian Cannabis Review podcast. Thanks for joining me again today. What are we talking about today? What is the news on the grapevine? Well, we're going to be continuing our talk about the medicinal cannabis listed stocks on the Australian Stock Exchange. And if you've been listening to kind of the series for the month, this will be part 4. So for the first 2 weeks I talked about Can Group and Ozcan. There was an entire podcast dedicated to them. And last podcast I talked about the 7 smallest cannabis companies on the Australian Stock Exchange by market cap. So all these companies had a market cap of about $15 to $20 million. Kind of just talked about them fairly briefly. Highly recommend if you just kind of want to learn a little bit more in about a half an hour space of time. You can just listen to that podcast and kind of get a little bit up to speed in that space. So for this week, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to talk about 6 or 7 different companies. I've got about 12 more to go through. So kind of for the month, or for the end of the month, kind of just speed it up a little bit and cover some companies kind of briefly. Look, some of them are a little bit more complex, so I would ideally like to dedicate a whole podcast to them, and I know I will so in the future, because the medicinal cannabis space in Australia is, although it's new and it's up and coming, and there's only about 21 companies in this space, it's also quite diversified. So, you've got companies looking in the pharmaceutical sector, and not just for humans, but also for animals. You've got companies that are wanting to be cultivators. You've got companies that are producing growing materials, not just for cannabis, but also for other plants. You've got like nutraceutical companies focusing on health and well-being, some biotech companies out there, life sciences, and just some companies that are investing in other private and publicly listed cannabis companies around the world, and as well as locally. So, look, there's kind of a wide field to kind of go through. But I think I'll just start off with this week just also looking at how kind of the chart's been going. So I kind of wrote an article that you can read. So if you go to cannabis on the ASX.com, you can find this article. And it's kind of just getting an index of the top 14 companies that are trading in this medicinal cannabis sphere, and then just kind of doing a little index on how they've performed. And kind of the chart, which you can obviously look online, but I'll explain a bit to you. And I kind of started this chart back in kind of November 2015, and kind of to this point in time now. And it kind of shows that from that time in November, there wasn't really too much happening. And all through 2016, it was also really quiet in the medicinal cannabis space, although some companies had already started to list or had been listed already. The kind of share price of these medicinal cannabis stocks didn't really take off until kind of the first quarter of 2017. And this was, of course, when the government changed its legislation around medicinal cannabis, and kind of that's probably around the point in time when medicinal cannabis started to catch everyone's eye, I think, at least in the first stage. And it was in the first quarter of 2017, kind of the average price of medicinal cannabis stocks doubled over the course of a month, nearly, at least by the index's standard. And then, it was only just a really kind of short spike. Then over, from April to June, it kind of plateaued, and then we kind of didn't really hear anything about the space over the next 6 months until another spike in November of last year. Then it kind of came back, retreated a little bit, and then the kind of index hit around its 400-point mark in January of 2018, when government once again changed legislation around medicinal cannabis. And from there, it kind of petered down really quickly again. Through the first quarter, it kind of went down. And in April, it kind of had a small resurgence of about, not even a whole about a 20% resurgence. And since May to about now, the medicinal cannabis sphere on the ASX has kind of been on a downwards trend. Now, if you're looking at the North American marijuana index, you would have seen that over August, September, those stocks kind of really got pumped and got moving and hit some highs. And since that time, those stocks haven't recovered from their highs. But especially now for the reporting season, some of those stocks kind of announced figures and it kind of weren't as much as they expected. But cannabis has only been legal in Canada for just over a month now, so kind of, it's still early days. And I guess with a lot of people kind of really speculating on the stock, I think some people paid some premium prices for stocks that, you either should have gotten in early or you probably just wait till the market cools down a little bit. So kind of at present, I guess looking at that chart, it kind of just goes to show that it really is government legislation that's kind of driving the huge kind of price rises. Obviously, some stocks, just on their own merit, they're doing some really good things out there. They're getting some positive announcements coming out, and their share price is going up according to those announcements. So now, continuing to the theme of the podcast, I'm going to go through some of these stocks. So first off the bat for today, I've got Bod Australia. Their ticker code is BDA, and Bod Australia is a vertically integrated developer, distributor and marketer of plant-based natural medicines. So this includes medicinal cannabis, health products and cosmetic solutions. So ideally, they kind of want to be the best company producing these products. So it's kind of more in that nutraceutical space, health and well-being. The company does have over 10 brands and over 30 products. They say that the average margin across the business is about 45%. So they're getting a little bit of revenue in for their company. So that's a good thing. Just recently, early on this month, they are aligned with Chemist Warehouse Group, who, as you may as well know, they're kind of like the Bunnings of pharmacies. And they're going to stock their medicinal cannabis products, beginning with a product called Medicalbilis, which is a product with, it's got CBD in it, so it's going to be treated for pain. So, Bod Australia, they're not just in medicinal cannabis, they're also looking at, other spaces, but look, I think they've got a good CEO called Joe Patterson, and if you look at the share price, disregarding all the major fluctuations, their share price has kind of been slowly increasing over the year. So, look, they're kind of, good place to look at. Their shares are worth about 60 cents per share at the moment. They've got a market cap of about $41 million. So they're definitely something that could be on your radar. They've still got some money in the bank as well, so going forward, they don't have to do any capital raising or anything like that. So, yeah, they're not, I guess I would say, a pure medicinal marijuana play, but they're definitely involved with the space, and it's still going to get the attention of investors. Next up, we have RotoGro. So, RotoGro's ticker code is RGI, and they're engaged in manufacturing and selling of automated rotary hydroponic systems. Now, I reckon what this company is doing is absolutely awesome. So, I'll paint you an illustration. So think of when you're normally growing a product, you're growing it in a kind of a flat space, right? You're growing it from the ground, like it might be in your garden, or you might be growing something indoors. Who knows what that could be? And, you've got these pots on the ground, or it's planted into the ground. But AutoGrow's system has actually got these kind of cylindrical tubes, and within these tubes, kind of all the plants are planted within it. So it's kind of a 360 style growing system, and it's got a light in the middle of it. All their stuff aims to be automated. It's kind of really high-tech stuff where, they've got all these management systems for it. They plan to have these systems kind of just self-growing and kind of maintaining. So you don't really need people going in there and, watering the plants, kind of, doing, weeding if you're growing outdoors or anything like that. And growing indoors is kind of the future, I think, not just in cannabis, but also just in growing produce, as kind of land gets more scarce, or good growing fertile land gets more scarce. We've got threats of global warming and temperatures increasing. Growing produce in a controlled environment is going to be ideal. And the great thing about RotoGrow's kind of product that they have is that, for example, if you're growing in a 3 meter square space, and they're talking just about growing cannabis here, you can only grow about 1.3 kilograms of cannabis. But they reckon with their system, they're growing 3 to 4 kilograms. And if you double stack that, so you put two of these machines on top of each other, you're growing 6 to 8. If you're triple stacked, you're growing 9 to 12 kilograms. So sometimes you're growing 10 times as much stuff in the same amount of space. So it's really efficient. It's really great. They've signed some deals with a number of companies, a company called Freshero and I think Gibio. So these companies are producing, fresh produce for certain markets. So they're helping in that space as well. So it's kind of really giving them a leverage that they don't have to just think about growing cannabis. This system that they have can be used for growing all kinds of produce. And they've also got some kind of really awesome proprietary tech involved in there, where kind of they have, CO2 or extra CO2 feed it into the system. And when you're growing stuff, extra CO2 is kind of what the plants want because they give out the oxygen. So, yeah, I really like this company as that they're growing some awesome hydroponic systems, and it's not just in the space, or it's not just relevant for medicinal marijuana or marijuana in general. It can also be used for growing everywhere. Another awesome thing is that they're listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, so that gives them extra exposure to the European market. And the company also says that their yields are much better and higher due to their technology, and they're able to grow more due to their unique style of their product. And look, I kind of looked at a lot of their announcements on the ASX and looked at their website, and I kind of really like what they see. Their share price, I think at the moment, is around 50 cents per share or something like that. They kind of had a dip a few months ago, so it would have been good to get on that. But anyway, look, I think this company definitely has some growth in the future, and I really like this one. This is one that I really enjoy. Okay, so that's RotoGro for us. Now we're moving over to Zelda Therapeutics. Their ASX ticker code is ZLD. So Zelda Therapeutics, they're a biotechnology company. They're focusing on developing a range of cannabinoid-based formulations for the treatment of various medical conditions in Australia. So the company's involved in human clinical trial programs which are focusing on insomnia, autism and eczema. And they're conducting preclinical research trials at the moment to examine the effects of cannabinoids in the breast, brain and in pancreatic cancer. So these guys, they're definitely in the biotech space. They're undertaking a lot of research. At the moment, they're doing a lot of research in autism at the moment in the US, and as well as in the US on an insomnia trial. But they are also focusing, on those other parts of the business as well. Now, this company started with a reverse takeover a couple of years ago, and look, I reckon what they're doing is absolutely fantastic, because they're in biotech and they're kind of, researching some of these pretty serious conditions. I think it's still going to take a lot of time for them to kind of get to a revenue kind of making space, because at the moment they're just getting research. There isn't any money coming in. The good thing is that they've aligned themselves with, some good places. So like the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, doing research with the University of Western Australia. There's a place called Hapa Medical, which they're going to use for distribution. So the company's got experts in the relative fields. It's great. And I think in the next couple of years, when they kind of get these products through their research phases and through their clinical trials, which is really important. But the great thing is that with medicinal cannabis trials, usually results always come out really, really positive. Cannabis is a natural product. Obviously, it's not for everybody. But, when you're looking at the health benefits of the product, might not be for everybody, but look, it doesn't make people worse. Some of these pharmaceutical companies that are coming out with products, they're synthesized, they're really not that natural, and there are a lot of side effects. And we know that cannabis doesn't really have the side effects of those drugs. And if you're using something like a CBD based medicine, then I think it's positive news. So, yeah, I love what they're doing. Just in terms of how you get a return on your investment, if you want to invest in this company, well then, I'm not too sure. But kind of what they're doing for the world and the research and what they're based about and the people that are involved with the company, really, really cool stuff. And I hope that we get a lot of information coming out from them in regard to some really positive news about, their trials and maybe them having some products in the near future. Okay, next up, we got Creso Pharma. Their ASX ticker code is CPH. Now, Creso Pharma, they're engaged in developing, registering, and commercialization of pharmaceutical-grade cannabis and hemp-based nutraceutical products and treatments for not only humans, but also for animal health. So they've got a number of products in their portfolio at the moment, which includes animal health products, nutraceutical products, skincare products, and lifestyle products. So I guess we could also dump this company into that nutraceutical health and well-being kind of space. The other really good thing for this company, I think, is that they're focused around the world. So, they've got kind of segments in Australia, in Europe, in Slovakia and Switzerland, and they're also looking into Canada as well. So, yeah, what can I talk about with this company? Well, where do I start here? All right. Well, they're trading on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. So once again, that gives them exposure to the European market where they can be traded. They've got when it comes to their growing side of the business, they've made an investment in a company called Manova Cannabis, and they're building a cultivation, a grow house what am I trying to say? A cultivation centre or, a greenhouse in Nova Scotia in Canada. So they're going to be able to produce, medicinal grade marijuana, which they can then either on-sell for the world market or they could import back into Australia and use for their own product. So that's really great. They've got a number of health products as well. These health products are CBD based. So, they're kind of used for pain management, as well as a number of other important ailments that people have. And they're signing up deals with companies and trying to sell their products around the world. So, yeah, really good stuff from them. I thought I probably could have remembered a lot more about this company, but yeah, they kind of got their fingers in a few pies, right? Because, as I said, they've got the nutraceutical space, but they're also got a little bit of a finger pie in the space of growing. Now, they've got a market cap of around $52 million. Look, I reckon if they get some of their products out as well, it could, really start generating some revenues for them. The only thing I'm starting to think about now is that, with a lot of companies doing this, it's kind of going to be pretty hard for a company to stick out from the rest. Now, with all these products coming out, who's going to be on top of the food chain? And kind of at the end of the day, sadly, you can always have a good product, but it'll also come down to how you market it and where it's sold, and even some kind of luck things where, somebody kind of famous or something like that decides, oh yeah, that's a cool product, and then they'll talk about it, and then bingo, bango, bongo, your product's kind of now known through everyone in the Twitter sphere. So, yeah, I think it's going to be hard for some companies to stick out, but hopefully CPH, what they're doing, they've got money in the bank, slowly got the ball rolling on it. Once again, I think it's going to take some years for them to kind of fully unwind their business plan, because it involves research as well. But being a new company and this being a new space in Australia, they've definitely got potential to succeed. All right, now I'm going to move on to Quennsland Bauxite. Their ASX ticker code is QBL. Now, when I give a description of this company, you might be thinking, what is this company doing in the medicinal cannabis space? But they are. So Quennsland Bauxite is a mineral exploration and development of bauxite tenements in Queensland and New South Wales. So they got a couple of lead projects in both states, but the company has also pursued interests to invest and acquire a company called Medicinal Cannabis Ltd, and they are the Australian leader in the hemp and, I don't know, from what I've read here, they're a leader in the hemp space in Australia. So, yeah, they have acquired Medicinal Cannabis Ltd, and they're also acquiring Medcan Australia. So if these companies, at the moment, as of recording, they are still in a trading halt, and they have been since the 30th of July. They kind of rebranding their company. They're going to relist. So they've actually just redone they've redone a capital raising. So under the new ticker code, which they'll have, which escapes my head at the moment. But at the moment, they're trading under QBL on the ASX. So kind of, if you want to find out more information about them, just look on the ASX website or type in QBL ASX into Google, and you should get some new information, because they'll end up listing on the Australian Stock Exchange. It always gets pushed back lately, but last time I heard, they plan to now be listing in the first week of December, so only a couple of weeks away. And yeah, look, there's a lot of positive news for this company, because they've got a medicinal cannabis cultivation and production license. They've got a import license. They've got a manufacture license, an export license. Since they plan to be growing a lot of hemp as well, they've applied with the Department of Agriculture and Water Resources. So they've got a permit with them, because I think they're going to be based in Queensland. So they've got a Queensland Health license, which kind of gives them access to Schedule 9 substances, which cannabis is kind of still under. God knows why, though. Oh, and also because they've acquired a medicinal cannabis, or they call it Medicinal Cannabis Limited, or MCL. So in this space, they kind of want to focus on the hemp seed food market in Australia. And MCL, They have a subsidiary company called VitaHemp, and their aim is to produce Australia's, legal. They want to be a lead producer in legal hemp seed food products in Australia, and they've already got agreements signed up with Coles, and they've unveiled some new hemp seed oil capsules as well. So, look, the company, though it's relisting, it's kind of got the ball rolling in a lot of spaces. It's acquired 2 companies that now they own 100% of, and they're going to be 100% focused on MCL, and what's the other company now? I bloody forget what it's called. Medcan Australia. And they will, be growing a lot of hemp as well, and trying to sell it for seed there. So, look, I'm not sure what they're doing with their bauxite mines, their bauxite mines, but they will be cannabis focused, at least in the hemp seed food market, and we'll see how their stock price goes. I mean, if they start making some good sales, like another company listed called EXL, that's their ticker code, they're called Elixinol Global. They're US based but trading on the ASX. They're selling a lot of hemp seed food products, and their share price has gone up pretty well, and they're making like a lot of revenue from it. And by a lot, I mean it's growing. It's more than what they were previously making. So if QBL can do the same thing, then they might start with a certain amount of sales. But it does appear, by looking at the reports as well, that the hemp seed food market is growing. So you kind of watch this space for this company as well. And once again, they'll be relisting on the 7th of December if you want to find out some more information about them. Alright, moving on, next is a company called Botanix Pharmaceuticals. Their ASX ticker code is BOT, and they're a clinical stage medicinal dermatology company, and they're engaged in developing dermatology products for treating skin diseases including acne, psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, and other skin conditions. Now, with these biotech kind of pharmaceutical, what would I call this one? I guess it says here, look, they're a pharmaceuticals company, but they are also in that kind of biotech field where they're doing a lot of research. They're making products. I would probably put them in kind of this field of Zelda Therapeutics. And look, because they have a lot of products going on at the moment, I kind of don't really want to talk into too much detail about all of them, mainly because I don't really know about all of them. And look, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I'm not really kind of knowledgeable in the space of diseases such as acne, psoriasis, dermatitis, and just skin conditions in general. So look, I don't really know a lot. There is just one product. They've got an acne product which did catch my eye because I guess a lot of teenagers have acne, also a lot of adults have acne as well. You get it through hormone imbalances and the like. And look, this is an absolutely huge market. I came across an article talking about, some of their competition. I think it was actually probably related to a release done by Botanix or some kind of other private company. But it was talking about kind of the 2 companies that have, the leading acne products. And some of them are in pill form as well as in creams. But I think the most popular ones are in pill forms. So if I kind of tell the story, it's these 2 companies, they've got these 2 products, and I think they're making between them nearly $1 billion in sales just from those products alone. And, there are a lot of side effects for these products. So don't state me on those figures as well. But I do know that there are side effects. And, if anyone that has suffered with acne, they would know if they've taken any of these medications, such as, I remember when I was a youngster, I took some Roaccutane. And literally, you get dry lips. You kind of can't be out in the sun too long because it affects, your skin, you're more prone to sunburn. So I'm not exactly how that's caused, but Botanix, they're using a cannabis-based acne cream as well. So it's not even a tablet. So the cream can be applied directly to the place where the area is affected. And look, they've done clinical trials. They've done their first clinical study back in July last year, so in 2017, and it was found to have an excellent safety profile. It didn't have any skin irritations, and no adverse events were recorded. These kind of trials take time as well, especially in a market that's kind of this big as well. So it was in May of this year that then the FDI gave them a green light to start the phase 2 of their trial. So here they're going to be doing the trial in the US and in Australia. And the good thing is that this trial is fully funded for already. So with this product, which is called BTX 1503, it's fully funded, and which means that, they can enroll the patients. I think they're getting like 360 patients. They've got enough money to pay all the doctors that are involved with it and for, all the supplies they need for it. And this phase 2 trial is going to take about 12 months. And it's designed to deliver data, and to kind of further solidify that this is a great product and that, it's safe for people to use, and it actually helps solve and cure acne as it is intended to do so. So the company is also exploring licensing for this product, and they hope to have it, well, at least this phase of trials completed around the second quarter of 2019. So it is a slow process, but this is kind of one of their highlighted products. They've also got a few other products, as I've mentioned, in the pipeline, but look, it's another company that's a bit more complicated, and it's a bit kind of hard to talk about them in a short space of time. So I thought I'd just focus on the one product and what they're doing as well. Look, it's really beneficial. I'm happy that they're using cannabis to solve these products. A natural substance that, if you kind of look at all these companies that are in this space and what they're doing, it's kind of, I don't want to say it, but I don't know if it's a wonder drug, but listen, it's got a lot of benefits and it's helping potentially a lot of people. Now, the thing I like about it is because it's a natural product, so it might not even be as good or as strong as some of these other products that are on the market. But these products aren't natural, and they've got a lot of side effects that go along with them. And I think the best thing for your body to consume is some kind of natural product. So, look, I'm happy with what they're doing. If this product in particular, the BTX 1503, kind of takes off, which, maybe they might have to wait till 2020 till they can actually get out into the market. But, if it does take off and it's successful as they think it is, then, wow, that they could really be making some money from it. But I also think no doubt there'll be some other companies hoping to either buy it out or maybe stop them from, entering their market and taking some of that market share away from them. But look, currently the company's got a share price or a market cap of about $60 million. I think their share price is about 9 cents per share or something like that. So it's kind of pretty low. I guess they've got a lot of shares on issue. But it'll really just come down to, if their product is as good as what they say it is and if they can sell it to people. Okay, lastly for today, we've got the Hydroponics Company. So their ASX ticker code is THC, and THC operate under a farm-to-farmer pharmaceutical model, and they're currently delivering high-quality medicinal cannabis to Australian patients through existing access schemes. They've secured a significant growing capacity over 2 grow sites. They plan to be growing medicinal cannabis. They also are in a prime position to serve the Australian domestic market for Australian patients as well as the export market. THC has global partners over 4 continents, and they're willing to support THC's future internal growth. Now, THC, what to say about them? I guess they're also got their fingers in a few pies. They're looking on growing. I thought they also had some products on growing medicinal cannabis as well, but I guess I'm not too sure about that. I know that they've got a cannabis research license, so they can definitely do some research in this space. They've got a cultivation license and a manufacturing license. And I don't know if I mentioned in last week's podcast, but THC, they're going to be growing their cannabis on Genbrook, which is an old tea tree plantation. And who was Genbrook owned by? Well, they're owned by Eve Investments, who I think were the smallest kind of market cap medicinal cannabis company listed on the ASX at present. So it's kind of a mutual benefit for both those companies, where they'll both get something out of that. So. Look, I guess their main product is a CBD oil called Endoca, and it's an oil that's, I think it's got 3 and 15% concentrations of THC. So that'll be used to treat a number of ailments, and they've got a prescriber and a patient engagement strategy in place as well to kind of help get their products to the patients that require that, because at the moment, with the way the industry is at the moment, it can even be hard for doctors to prescribe some medicinal cannabis products to their patients. So they're kind of also trying to help, prescribers and doctors kind of be a bit more educated in the space. They've got a medicinal cannabis team and some operations in Canada as well. So look, fingers in a few pies. I guess kind of the big thing from them is that they want to produce high quality GMP certified medicinal cannabis products to domestic patients as well as abroad, and they've got a farm to farmer model. So that meaning that they want to grow their own stuff, and they also want to produce their own medicines as well. And they've also got a bit of their own equipment. So once again, they kind of got that whole field covered. It's kind of paddock to plate for the medicinal cannabis sphere, where they want to have that full supply chain covered and not really have to rely on anybody else. They got a market cap of about $63 million, travelling at about 40 odd cents per share at time of recording. And yeah, another interesting company. What I like about their business model is that it's kind of that farm to farmer model, where it doesn't just sound cool, but it's also a great idea. If you want to be in control of your business, you can, this is the perfect example where they've got that whole business structure covered. It's a holistic approach to the company, and I really hope it succeeds for them as well, because they look like a company that's kind of trying to do a lot of good stuff in this space as well. And I think they're one of also the more genuine contenders. And as we've been going through this list today as well, so going backwards, THC, definitely a genuine contender. Botanix, who we talked about with their acne product, also really worthwhile in the space that what they're doing. Also could be a good investment. Quennsland Bauxite. Listen, when I first heard about them, I think they were a bit of a joke, and I was cashing in on the hype. But now, looking at all the reports and kind of what they've signed up with, they definitely do look like the real deal, and they have kind of re-established themselves, not as a mining company anymore, but a company that are genuinely in the medicinal cannabis space. And look, if the hemp industry kind of takes off, which some people are expecting it to do so, then they're also going to be a productive company. Yes, a profitable company. I meant to say, I'm getting a bit tired doing this bit late at night. Creso Pharma, should I say, the nutraceutical company, thinking about animal products as well, skincare products, lifestyle products. Got a few continents covered: Australia, Europe, and Canada, as well as the Middle East, apparently with one of their products. So look, another genuine contender, Zelda Therapeutics. Love the work that they're doing, although, like, from an investment point of view, look, some of these other companies might also not make some money, but these guys are kind of really honest with what they're kind of doing, and yeah, I think it's just going to really take some time. But in their research space with what they're doing with cannabis, man, fantastic work. Like I love that, you know, they're trying to find out more about these illnesses that, because we've had a prohibition on these drugs or on cannabis, we haven't really been able to research to our best ability, you know, how we can, you know, treat certain ailments with cannabis. And because the plant's so diverse, and because we've only kind of been doing this for the last kind of, you know, 5 years or 10 years, you know, imagine if like 30, 40 years ago, we were putting in the same research as we are now, where we would be up to. So kind of pharmaceutical companies, they kind of had a huge head start on trying to cure some of these ailments or treat them better. And look, they might be able to treat them better, but there are a lot of side effects. And I'm not trying to say that medicinal cannabis is going to solve all these issues as well. But when there's, you know, other alternatives to be taken and with no side effects, you know, this could be kind of the best last case scenario. Even if it is, you know, you've tried all these other drugs that have been made by these big pharmaceutical companies and they're giving people bad side effects, even if they are helping them a little bit. Sometimes people that are in these positions, they don't want to have to deal with that, but maybe the cannabinoid option might be able to give them some relief and without the side effects, and that might be a plus for them. So look, it's hard to say, because there was the Lancet, I forget the name of the exact paper now, but it was a renowned medical journal that released a paper around, you know, people using cannabis therapies compared to people using existing, you know, pharmaceutical products to treat different cancers, and they found out that it didn't really make a difference. So yeah, I'm not look, I don't think what came out of the journal is incorrect, but also I think that it didn't really show that, you know, the pharmaceuticals that the patients were given was that much better than what cannabis can do. And if, you know, if they want to do that, and maybe even a placebo could do just as good. It's the power of the brain's also a pretty intense thing. So look, the more research into the plant and what it can do for people, I think the better, because we have lost a lot of time around that. And going back, I also talked about RotoGro. So they've got automated rotary hydroponics systems. Love what they're doing. They could really not just revolutionize the cannabis space, but also just the growing industry of produce. So look, I really hope they do well. And first off the rank, I talked about Bod Australia, who, yeah, they've got some medicinal cannabis products, but they're not just wholly involved in that space. But look, as far as their management team goes, I think they've got a pretty solid thing there. So as long as they kind of, you know, keep getting sales and all that, and the market doesn't become too saturated, or they get a good customer base and it increases, then yeah, they're definitely going to be a profitable company for you in that space as well. And in generally what they're doing, yeah, pretty cool, making some cannabis products to help some people. So I guess that's not too bad at the end of the day. Some more natural products on the market, better than some of that shit that's been pumped out there. But yeah, that's been my kind of review of how many today? Seven medicinal cannabis stocks trading on the Australian Stock Exchange. That means we've only got 5 more to go. So I'll talk about them in next week's podcast. Kind of hope you feel a bit more informed after today. Kind of podcast went for a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I guess there was a lot to talk about, so that's all right. If you want to listen in, if not, don't stress too much about it. And thanks for listening. If you want to look up that article that I wrote on cannabisontheasx.com in regard to the chart and kind of how the prices have been affected by the certain changes in legislation, then yeah, please have a look on the Cannabis on the ASX website. And that's it for this week. So you've been listening to the Australian Cannabis Review podcast, and I will catch you next time.